Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let There Be Talk. It is Monday, December 19th, and this episode is brought to you by my fantastic sponsor, El Cajon Harley-Davidson. Get yourself a motorcycle. Head to El Cajon Harley. I don't care where you live. I said it over and over. Catch a plane out to El Cajon Harley and ride your motorcycle home. Nothing better than riding around America on a brand new motorcycle. El Cajon Harley. What a great sponsor. Holidays are coming up. Head in there and get your loved one a gift, a new helmet, some handlebars, some exhaust, whatever, man. Go to El Cajon Harley. They're going to help you out. They can customize your machine you got now, or you can trade it in and get a brand new motorcycle. Get yourself a brand new Harley, one of the touring bikes with the new motor, the Milwaukee 8. Yeah, man, you don't want to be missing out. Go to El Cajon Harley. Tell them, hey, Del Rey sent me. Where is Greg Riley? I need myself a new fucking bike. My boy Pat the Plumber did it. Pat the Plumber. He got himself a Road King. What a badass. Anyway, guys, go hit it up. El Cajon Harley. Follow him on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And also, thank you for tuning in. All right, let's get into it here. It's Monday, and I'm just back from San Francisco, and what a fucking weekend I had there. Shout out to all the Del Raisers that came out. It was fucking great. What a great weekend, man. I was a little worried, because it was fucking the holidays, and then it was what else? Mother Hips were playing in town, and Metallica was playing in town. I was like, wow, how many obstacles can I have in one weekend? I was battling holiday parties. Sorry, man, my work's having a Christmas party. Hey, every hurdle that you could have, I got. It's always something, man. It's always something. I always say that. Whenever you get to somewhere and they go, dude, it's usually packed here, but the state fair's in town. I'm like, yeah, it's always something, man. It's always something until you're totally famous, and then it doesn't matter what the fuck's in town. The people are going. Watch how fast they go. Anyway, thanks for everybody that came out to the Punchline. It was unbelievable, and something pretty fucking special happened to me. I booked the shows like 3 months ago with the Punchline, and I wasn't really paying attention to the weekend or when it was. I was like, yeah, that's how it is. When I get offered work, I'm like, I am in. I don't care what day it's on. It could be on Easter, Christmas. It could be New Year's Eve, whatever, man. I work every night. So I wasn't really thinking about it. And as the dates got closer, I was like, wow, man, that's during the thick of the holiday week. But it didn't matter. I was like, I'm in. So last week, I get a little heads up, a secret email that says, looks like Dave Chappelle is going to be doing the late shows after your shows, and your Friday show is going to only be the early show. And I was like, oh, cool, man. I mean, I'll get to see Dave Chappelle. That's all I kept thinking, like, oh, badass. And, I've actually known Dave for about 4 or 5 years. I met him early on. I went to go see him. He did an epic set, 6 hours at the Laugh Factory. And Dave has always been absolutely top 5 for me. And I've said it on this podcast before, but I'll say it again. I'll never forget when Dave got back from Africa. He did a show at the Comedy Store in the main room. And it was one of the funniest, absolute funniest shows I've ever seen. I went solo by myself because it was a hard ticket to get, and they sat me front row. This is before I was doing comedy. Like, I don't know, I think it was 8 years or something. everything's 8 years, right? Wasn't it 8 years ago? But I was sitting front row solo, and he came out, and he was, just murdering, and I was laughing so hard. He looked at me at one point and went, "It ain't that funny, man." I was like, yeah, it is, man. You are the king. He was just killing. But I met him, like I said, about 4 years ago, or 5 maybe now. He was doing the Laugh Factory, and he was on all night. And I was about, I don't know, dead center, 5th row. I think I was wearing like a motorcycle jacket, and he looked out in the crowd and said, "You ride?" And I said, yeah, I ride. And Dave rides, and he started talking to me from the stage for like 5 minutes. It was funny. I was like, wow, Dave Chappelle's talking to me. This is crazy. And we're talking motorcycles, and after the show, we talked a little bit. And from that fucking day on, anytime I saw Dave, he would stop and go, "Yo, man, how's the bikes?" And it was just like, that's how cool of a man this guy is. I mean, he meets me from some crowd work and then remembers like the rest of his life, And over the years, I've run into him. We've had some great conversations about music and motorcycles. And I just love this man. He's just the real fucking deal, man. Zero, none of that celebrity shit, none of that. He just comes right up. He'll rap to anybody. He's so fucking cool. So I do the show Thursday night, my show, and then I stay and I watch Dave. And as I'm watching, Molly, who I absolutely love, from the Punchline, that books the Punchline, came up and said, "Hey, you want to open for Dave tomorrow night?" Which would be the Friday night show. And I just lost my mind. I was like, yeah, I kind of do. And I couldn't sleep all night. I was like, oh my God, I'm opening for Dave Chappelle tomorrow night. That's all I kept doing. I kept running. What set am I going to do? I was running the bits in my head. I was looking at notes 4 or 5 in the morning. Completely. It was like Christmas came early. I was like, oh shit, I got to get ready. It's going to be sold out, obviously. So the night came, and it was absolutely electric. The room was just fucking fire. And, just another insane night in my comedy life. It's just crazy to think, and I say it over and over, that 7 years ago, I wasn't doing comedy. And then there I am, opening for one of my fucking favorite comedians of all time in my home fucking town. In my hometown. I was opening for Dave Chappelle in my hometown. Talk about a come home, like wow. And, all the stuff that was going on, the Metallica and Mother Hips and everything, people were like, "Oh, you're missing out on this." I didn't miss out on anything, man. I was exactly where I was supposed to be. It was so great. In that Punchline Comedy Club. That place is magic, by the way. The absolute energy in there and the history of that room. It's almost underrated. Like you don't hear about it as much as you should. To me, it's like Punchline Comedy Store, Denver Comedy Works, and the Cellar. Those are the fucking monumental. Those are the Mount Rushmore of comedy clubs. And wow, I'm still buzzing from it. After the show, I was up all night. I couldn't sleep. It was just, thank God I had a good set. I loved it, man. And I loved watching Dave work. I watched his sets both nights. It's amazing to watch just a king of comedy up there, watching how he tweaked jokes and watched how he did crowd work and how he paced the show. Everything about it, man. That's what's great about comedy. You can go watch your idols. You can watch the best in the business, like sometimes 4 or 5 nights in a row, like at the store, and really just fucking learn from it. I mean, you know, when those guys are on, I'm in the room. I can learn so much from it. So thank you, Molly, Punchline, and Dave Chappelle for just an insane weekend. What an amazing time, man. Those of you that were there at the Punchline, once again, thank you so much. I can't thank everybody enough. Pat the plumber. Pizza Hacker was in the house. My boy, Jeff. Pizza Hacker was there. And all my other friends. Joey, Billy Rowe, Rock and Roll Relics. All kinds of guys. Joel Strap was there. The Joel Strap. All kinds of friends. I love you. It's always great to come home to San Francisco and see those faces, especially around the holiday times. Gets close to the end of the year, and we're just like, yes, we have made it. I want to give a special rest in peace to a man that was definitely in my eardrums growing up. Bob Colburn, Rockline. We lost him. And it's such a bummer, man. I really, as I heard that he had passed, thought about it, how subliminally that his Rockline show was really a huge inspiration on this podcast. I remember just every week, you know, waiting for Rockline and just sitting there. And it wasn't even that long ago, but it sure feels like the 50s or the 40s or something, just right up on the radio, listening to your fucking favorite rock star break down like a record or what he's up to. And Bob was just a master interviewer, and his voice was cool. He was never cheesy. He wasn't like, all right, man, tell me about that. Wah, wah, wah. He just had this smooth vibe. And he interviewed all the biggest stars ever, man. And, you know, it's a bummer that he's gone. So, sad news, man. Sad news in 2016. I'm ready for you to go away. You Grim Reaper motherfucker. 2016. You're evil. 2016 hasn't been bad. 2016 has been super bad for me and super amazing. I've never seen the juxtapose of two things. It's like, all right, hit on your motorcycle, evicted, diabetes, but you open for Louis C.K. and Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr. It's like, yeah, you know, you're doing comedy all over. You're in New York. It's just hilarious, the ups and downs, man. You got to be fucking strong to battle those ups and downs. And you know, I attribute that to a lot of you guys. Thank you for tuning in and coming to shows, man. It's all about you guys. And I know sometimes I don't mention it, but I fucking love you guys. And your emails and your music suggestions and everything. Coming to the shows, talking about, you know, passion of comedy and music and everything about the podcast you guys love. I can't thank you enough. It's just an awesome thing. Speaking of music, I want to get into the guest today. I know a lot of you guys all have some kind of band that you think, well, man, they should have been huge, or they should be huge. I hear that year after year, over and over. Everybody in the world has that one favorite band they can't believe isn't massive. And, you know, I talk about that on the Mother Hips quite a bit. But my guest today, he's not massive, he's not huge, but doesn't mean that he's not successful. I think that if you try to gauge something by success or monetary factor, you're looking at it all wrong. Because my guest has been playing music since he was 12 years old, and professionally. He's got like 13 solo records out. He's toured the planet many, many times, starting back in the day, you know, back in the day when he was just a young chap playing in a band called Green on Red. If you don't know that band, look it up. Green on Red, man. That is like old school. Old school. Then he goes solo, and just from then on has been making records every couple of years his whole life. It's Mr. Chuck Prophet, absolute legend of San Francisco, man. The guy is a king. And you know, you're going to ask me, where should I start with Chuck Prophet? Because he's got 13 solo records out. Start anywhere. Because I want it to be organic. I want you to fall in love with your favorites. A lot of people think Brother Aldo is his best. You know? To me, I go Hurting Business and Homemade Blood. Two masterpieces back to back. I also love No Other Love. And it goes on and on and on. This guy is Americana, man. If you're into Wilco, if you're into Sunvolt, you like Tom Petty, you like Tom Waits, you like alt country, you like Ryan Adams, you should know this man, and he should be in your iTunes library or your vinyl collection, whatever. You're going to thank me, man. You're going to be like, oh my God, this guy is a tunesmith. He's also funny as fuck. He's very passionate. He's honest. Sometimes he'll just say whatever he likes. He's not going to hold back. He'll come out guns blazing. I hadn't talked to this guy in like 15 years, and it was quite strange. I wasn't quite sure how it was going to go. I felt we had a falling out. I don't know. Just hadn't seen him, and then one day he emails me out of nowhere, says he likes the podcast. I'm like, fuck, that's cool as shit. And I finally got him on. And let me tell you, this guy was a huge influence on my solo record. Huge influence. He can play guitar like a motherfucker, man. And he sings great. He's got great songs. And I'm thankful that he did the podcast. Thank you, Chuck Prophet. And I want you guys to go see him live if he comes to your town, because that is how he survives. He's a touring musician out there every year doing it up. He's got amazing stories. You're going to love this episode. Thank you, everybody. I love you. Keep the candles lit. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Let's get into it right now. Candles lit with Mr. Chuck Prophet.
All right. I'm going to hold this mic like this.
Oh, you got to hold it up by your mouth.
Really? Is that going to happen like that?
Yeah, it's fucking
Yeah, that's
weird.
a pity.
Yeah. How are you? Chuck Prophet
right.
is my guest today. I haven't seen you in how long?
Probably 18 months.
18 months?
Yeah,
no.
I know. Everything's 18 months to me. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I think I saw the Stones play at Candlestick. I would have been
81.
like 18 months ago.
It really has been. I lived in L.A. now 15 years. I don't think I've seen you in maybe 14 years. I remember seeing you once at Browers. I was in town with the Wallflowers. I saw you there. But, yeah, man, it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because my wife just broke the headstock on her acoustic, and I said, I think I've seen this enough that I think I could actually fix this. I'm going to buy. After I go visit with Dean Del Rey, I'm going to buy a clamp.
Yeah, you still living in the city?
Yeah, sure.
How do you do it, man?
I'm dug in deep. You
got rent control?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you in the same area? Same place?
Steffi and I still live in the same apartment over in the Castro.
That's unbelievable.
And,
How long?
I mean, it's changed a little bit. 20 years or something.
20 years.
Yeah. It's changed a little bit. The money's come to town. You see a lot of it's a very gay neighborhood, but now you see a lot of $1,800 strollers, with Hispanic nannies pushing twins.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's changed, but we're dug in.
It's funny. I was just talking to you. I was listening to your records, and Homemade Blood and Hurting Business were such an era of San Francisco to me, and it really, really sounds like San Francisco to me at that time, And it takes me back to how just great it was. Just a couple $100. You had rent. You bought a $5 burrito and a $2 Pabst Blue Ribbon, and you were just rock and roll, right?
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I have a new record coming out, and you know, it seems like every 2 years I put out a new record, and we're getting ready to go tour overseas and in the States, and you know, I inevitably somebody says to me like, "Well, it's really hard right now."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, you know what? I think I remember it was pretty hard in like 1985.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
when I was in Green on Red and we were heading overseas, you know, and what we were up against, and I think it was always a challenge in some way, you know. I don't know. I mean, but I have a lot of memories in this town too. I mean, this town's, you know, been my education in many ways. I mean, and
you hit
in
rock
so many
bottom
things.
in this town, right?
Like I hit rock
drug-wise?
bottom and then kept going. Yeah.
Because when I first kind of met you, I think it was around the Homemade Blood era. Max was playing guitar with you and that thing. But I think like I don't know, remember, but at the time before that, you had hit like rock bottom drug wise, right?
Yeah.
You're living in a car.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah.
That's crazy, right?
I mean, crack will really speed things up.
Yeah.
You know?
How'd you get into that? Like just crack 80s?
I'm surprised it took me as long to get into it as it did. You know? I feel like that thing when somebody said that, you know, the first time Waylon Jennings tried coke, you know, he did a line. He turned to his drummer and he said, how much would it cost to get a pound of this? But, you know, I mean, you're over here at the Punchline, right?
Yep, yeah.
I mean, you talk about you're San Francisco, and there's 27 San Franciscos. They all overlap. Everybody's got their own version of it. But, you know, I used to play with this comedian, Barry Sobel.
Right there.
I used to play guitar with him, and he had an act, and I saw so many bands at the old Waldorf. There was a door between the Punchline and the old Waldorf, just a door.
Remember that? And
it would separate, you know, the two rooms. So I remember like going through that door. I remember seeing Dizzy Gillespie.
Yeah.
I saw the Stray Cats.
Yep.
There, you know.
Yeah. They used to have those Metal Mondays and stuff.
Yeah, I remember something like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't really my world, but I had a roommate that was part of that.
What year do you move to San Fran?
I think I probably moved here in 1983.
83.
I had been playing in bands, you know, since I was 12 or whatever. I met Green on Red here.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. I mean, they were, when I joined them, they had a record out. Okay.
Yep.
They had a van.
Yeah.
A rental van that I think the label paid for, and they had a gas card. So it was pretty bourgeois.
Yeah.
To step into that gig.
Yeah. That's like a really
we still had sleeping bags, but you know, we were still sleeping on the floor, but we had I thought they were, you know, pretty bourgeois.
You know, it's funny because those records are great, man. Like it took me later on in life to get into them, you know, because the music is cool. Like it's like, how would you even describe it? Just kind of 60s rock.
I mean, part of that country rock thing.
It's definitely got that Burrito Brothers.
I think one of the reasons that music became so popular is that it's just really easy to play.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy to play well, you know, but and when I joined that band, they were probably a little more Doorsy or something because Chris Kakovich was kind of the Garth Hudson of the band. I mean, he was really just a natural, great musician, you know, and very expressive. Yeah. And then when I joined the band, it became a little bit more of a guitar band.
That was way before everybody was trying to do that Graham Parsons thing. You know, remember that? Once alt country hits, everybody's trying to be Graham Parsons or the band, but you guys are doing that shit like way.
I mean, I don't know that you know, you got to understand, like, I don't think guys in that band even had record players.
Right.
You know, and as far as Graham Parsons goes, he was like a name that people were aware of, probably because of the Stones and things. But you know, it was difficult. I remember I was in I was briefly hanging around with this guy Mark Olson before then, and he went on to be in a band called the Jayhawks.
Oh, awesome!
He had done one of those things where you deliver a car.
Yeah.
And he and some friends from Minneapolis came here and they delivered a car.
Oh, like and somebody bought it?
Yeah, and I like met him in like Dolores Park or something. And he could play a Graham Parsons song, you know. He could play a Hot Burrito. It's got a lot of chords in it. Pretty impressive. And then I remember I knew this guy Mark Plummer, who was a British guy that managed Chris Isaak, and he lived over in the Haight. And literally, myself and my friend Patrick Winningham, we went over to his house and we said, "We want to hear your Graham Parsons record."
Yeah.
And the guy said, "That's cool," So we sat on his couch and we just smoked cigarettes and listened to it, turned it over, listened to the other side, turned it over again.
Yeah.
And then we just ran out of there and says, "Okay, so that's Graham Parsons." But that was.
You just needed to touch in real quick.
Well, what is this?
Yeah,
He said, "Well,
there's no internet.
He says,
no
"There's
iTunes.
2 records. This is one of them. This is the better one."
That's fucking hilarious.
That's what it was like.
It's funny to think you had to go to someone's house to check it out if you didn't own it. Of course, it wasn't like just surf the net and go, there it is. Okay, move on.
Yeah, and he showed me something else while we were there. I'll never forget this. He was managing Chris Isaak at the time, and Chris Isaak was just playing in bars, But they had the suits and everything.
Yeah,
The presentation. They were playing at Night Break.
Yep.
They were playing at Night Break, which probably holds 150 people. And Mark, he had this rotary phone on the coffee table, this like Bakelite phone, and it would ring, and he would say, "I'm sorry, you'll have to call back," all the time.
Really?
But there was nothing. Things are busy here, and he'd hang up.
Wow.
And so when people finally got him on the phone to book Chris for a gig, they were ready to pay anything.
Yeah. They just thought like, holy shit, he's getting booked like crazy.
Yeah.
That's a genius
such a hustle, such an old school hustle.
That's a great thing. That's a Peter Grant kind of move,
And then I also remember a time Chris was there, and we were playing guitars a little bit, hanging out, and then Chris needed to get on the bus to go back out to the Sunset.
Yeah.
And they took 2 bus transfers, one with the date, and then one that had today's date, and then one with the proper time.
Yep.
And they took some scissors and like taped the 2 together. Because the paper transfers they would expire in 2 hours.
Yeah. That is fucking.
Just open a drawer like this, and there's a bunch of transfers in there.
I love how he just saves them.
Yeah, well, they were clever guys. So I guess my point is, was it really that easy?
I know.
I don't know that it was that easy. You're saying like, oh, we lived on burritos, we had $200. I remember it being kind of hard.
It was hard, but I think that you could make things happen. You could play live gigs, get paid, and then pay your bills. Where are you going to play a live gig right now in San Fran, other than like the Music Hall or Slim's or whatever? Back then you could play like 5 nights a week. Remember, you could do Night Break.
Yeah, I don't know.
Paradise.
I guess that was the case. I remember it was hard keeping a band together. I think for me, the biggest punch in the stomach was the tech boom of the late 90s.
Yeah, the .com.
And I felt like that pushed out a lot of the French element. And then I started losing like bass players. They got a job in a startup company.
Yep.
And started talking about, what kind of Volvo they're going to get. Or, well, I'm going to need a Volvo, Chuck. I want a safe car.
Yeah.
And then so, there became less of a pool of musicians to draw from for guys like me that were touring or whatever. So I think that was when I started to feel like there was a shift, but
that was the first fucking knockout because it knocked our clubs out. Like all of a sudden the Paradise was gone, the DNA Lounge was gone all of a sudden, Night Break's gone, the I-Beam's gone, .com, the greedy real estate owners.
Well, if the real estate economy gets that white hot, it's going to happen. But it's probably people are driven out to Oakland. I think if people want something, they'll seek it out.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I do understand.
I don't know. I've seen that a lot of clubs go down, but some of them were pretty.
Yeah.
Some of them were pretty poorly managed. I don't know.
Yeah. What do you? Like when you're going out on the road now, do you just pick new band guys? Because I
have a great band. We've probably been together, close to 10 years.
Wow.
The drummer's always been a revolving door, but
yeah, that's the worst.
But
right?
once we found Vicente Rodriguez in Austin, and he actually moved here, then I don't know. It just came together.
Yeah. After Green on Red, you get ready to do your solo career. And like, what are you listening to at the time? Because of course, all of a sudden, it becomes kind of this Americana thing.
Well, there was like the thing about Green on Red was that we snatched victory from the jaws of defeat so many times. You know, I think we were like 3 labels deep, and we had gotten dropped from Phonogram after making a record called The Killer Inside Me with Jim Dickinson over a period of 6 months, and it was pretty bombastic. And we went out and we did a tour of Europe in the bus, and in a lot of ways that was the tour that we kind of, I don't know, the magic was gone. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, when the crowds were there, but they'd adjusted a little bit, and that's always kind of a,
Yeah.
you know, everybody feels that.
Yep.
And we had a gig booked for the Astoria in London, and we were the second to last gig. It was going to be the last gig of the tour, and we were in Greece, and you know, Dan Stewart, the singer of the band, got in a fight with some of the audience. And he jumped down in the crowd. He had his guitar on, and I just remember he had a Gretsch guitar with a whammy bar, and I remember I couldn't see him down there.
Yeah.
You know, but I could hear him like,
wow. Just a big speed.
Yeah, we grabbed his guitar cable, we pulled him out like a fish, you know, and the neck on his Gretsch had snapped.
Oh.
And so we were feeling, we were already pretty dispirited, and we had really turned against each other, and so from somehow or another, I think it was the manager that decided, hey, you know, this gig at the Astoria, the pre-sales are pretty slow.
Yeah.
Danny's got issues here. He's got a broken neck on his Gretsch, you know, and so they took him to a doctor in Greece, and they said, yeah, this guy's having a nervous breakdown.
Wow.
And if you get a doctor's note, you can actually cancel a gig, and the insurance kicks in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we canceled the Astoria.
Yeah.
That was 1987. We all went home, and that was kind of the end until Danny and I got back together, and sort of, you know, another record deal came through, which is its own weird story. A lot of twists and turns in the road, but that was really kind of the end of Green on Red. And then we made this other record, and we made that for this goth label called Red Rhino, kind of a cool label out of Leeds, England, that had made money with some goth bands, like maybe the Sisters of Mercy, things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they funded this record, and Danny and I went to Memphis and made it with Jim Dickinson, and then that label folded up on itself and went into liquidation or whatever, and so we didn't have a record. And that's probably when I was in San Francisco, and at the same time that Green on Red just kind of went out of business, you know. I mean, we didn't break up, we just kind of
It went out of business.
we just sort of, there wasn't really anything happening.
Yeah. That's a great term. Band went out of business.
Exactly. And then, well, you know, Dan Stewart used to always say, like, when people asked him, you know, what comes first, the music or the lyrics, he always said, oh, the advance.
The advance. Oh,
so we went out of business, and then at the same time, my friend Patrick Winningham had been in a band that had been courted by some major labels, and Steve Yerke, a good friend of mine, had been in a band called Nonfiction. They'd made a great record for Demon, and we all kind of were in bands that had, you know, disintegrated.
Yeah.
And so we started hanging out at this place called the Albion, and they said, look, we'll give you $50 if you can keep that back room cooking.
Wow.
And so we used to go back there with like 3 or 4 acoustic guitars and you know, just work up like 3 sets of music. And that's kind of, we sort of built that. And then, you know, we do that like poker night. We do it like every Saturday night.
Yeah.
And then people started coming a little bit, and, you know, we started writing songs. And that was really what I was, at the time I was probably really into, you know, Dylan and, you know, Last Waltz kind of stuff, and definitely Richard and Linda Thompson.
Yeah.
British folk music and you know, that kind of thing.
It's funny because your records had such a influence on my solo record. Your wife sang on the solo record, but that Homemade Blood, when it comes out, I mean, basically you got New Year's Day, you know, is like this masterpiece song, you know.
People respond to that one.
Yeah, man.
Who responds to that one is Ryan Adams.
Oh, yeah.
That song, yeah.
Yeah, that tune, man.
I said, Ryan, I like you.
Yeah. For now, right? Did you say for now?
No, I love Ryan. I love Ryan.
Fucking with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that record really was kind of like, once alt country starts hitting, you got, Wilco and Sunvolt. I mean, after, they break up and they go their separate ways, and then you got Jayhawks, and then Ryan comes. This whole fucking Mother Hips, this great thing starts happening, right? Like great music. And your record was really like a crown jewel in that to me,
Well, we made that record in a studio, live on the floor, 5 people playing at the same time, looking at each other.
Yeah.
And it was probably one of the last records at the time. I mean, and for me, that was just a reaction to the record I'd made before that, which I made with a producer. That the first day the producer showed up, he had a fanny pack, and and there was a lot of processing. Everything, every shaker and everything was processed, and there was a lot of time spent in the control room, and I just felt like that was a record that the producer just felt compelled to put his thumbprint on every little overdub, and I just felt like that was one of those records that was made in the control room,
right?
And I wanted Homemade Blood to be like a record made with 5 people looking at each other.
Where'd you make that record?
At Coast.
Oh, yeah,
on Mission Street.
Yeah. That place.
Great room, designed by Bill Putnam, the guy that designed all the great rooms in California.
What a great room, right? I did my record, and it just sounded good. Wait, did they change the name later to Toast?
Yeah, it was called Coast, and Dan Alexander bought it, I think, in the early '90s. I mean, he knew about it.
Yeah,
it had been mostly, I think, it had fallen into. When I used to go there were still a lot of guys doing voiceovers with tape and a razor blade.
Wow.
So there'd be actors in there and everything. I think they had 2 small rooms that were, I think it was pretty much part of that world, But there was that room in the back, the big rooms.
It was amazing, right?
Dan Alexander took it over. He put the Neve in there. He made it happen. And then another studio opened up called Golden State Recorders over on Harrison.
Right.
Where, I think they'd recorded, Tequila.
Yeah.
That opened up, and Dan moved there, and then some other guys took over the studio and they called it Toast.
Yeah, because then I started using that Coast with the giant fucking room, that huge that studio was great, too.
Yeah, that fell to the first.com.
Yeah, I could imagine. The thing was so fucking giant, but it sounded great also. And then you start working with Jakir King on the Hurting Business.
Yeah,
that he did my record, and of course he's working with Tom Waits and everything. But that guy, was fucking great, right?
He had great ears. Yeah,
he did, man.
He had great ears and a lot of attention to detail, and yeah.
The Hurting Business, I think, is probably...
He's out there doing it.
He's fucking doing it. He did Kings of Leon, a couple of their records.
Well, with Angelo, who was really their kind of architect. And
exactly. You ever see him? He's in Nashville.
Co-conspirator. I haven't seen him in a while, but...
Yeah, I haven't seen that guy in years, man. But once you do Hurting Business, it seems to me that's kind of the Beck era where that tape loops are hot and everything, and then that record really has that flavor, right? DJ, some wacky keys and stuff.
Well, I made a lot of that record. I kind of wrote those songs on my 4-track, and it had something clicking along and playing acoustic guitar over the top, and added a couple things, and that was. I mean, when I made that record and I started thinking about the script for it and the songs, that was how I got it up and running. So it was an extension of that,
Right, yeah. I mean, the fucking songs on it are amazing, like Rise.
Some hold up, yeah.
Yeah, I love that record. Do you still like that one, or?
I mean, I like all of them. I mean, oftentimes the way that I feel about a record is colored by how people receive it.
Right.
People say, "Oh, that Homemade Blood." I'm like, "Sure, Dean. Yeah, I'll take it." I mean, the experience of making it. It's colored by that. Some were really easy to make, and that's great when that happens. And some records were more of a struggle, and there was more blood on the floor, and they were remixed 3 times before. I got the thing to behave, so I'm colored by that experience.
Right.
So, I mean, I'll believe anything you tell me.
It's you've been playing music how long, man? 30 years? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I've been in bands since I was 12 years old, but
it's all you've done. Have you had jobs?
Well, I wish I mean, I wash dishes and park cars and stuff like that.
Yeah, really?
Sure. Yeah.
Like-
I mean, not lately.
No, but I'm
it's
saying,
coming.
Even back during the Homemade Blood era, were you working any jobs ever?
No, not really.
Right.
It's interesting because there are some years where I wondered if I was making a living, but I know I didn't have a job, so I guess I must have been.
That's wild, right? I mean, you got to think your whole life. Because a lot of people would think, and I love when they say this, like, if somebody would interview you, let's say, and they say, hey, man, are you kind of bummed you've never made it? And when people say that, like, to me or something, I'm like, what do you mean? I'm fucking 50 and I'm performing still. That's made it.
I think that people, I think you just got to let those people, you got to let that just roll off because people, it's like explaining, it would be like explaining sex to somebody.
Yeah.
Or it's like, well, you don't understand. I mean, if I'm writing a song and I get two lines to really behave and it fits in there and it's exactly what I want to say, and I knew it was out there, but it took me like 6 months to get the lines. I said, that's a buzz.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a buzz. And, and if you've experienced that, then you're just going to be chasing the next buzz, So it's hard to explain to somebody the buzz of, well, in your case, you're working on material.
Joke writing.
You're seeing it work, you
Yep.
know, and oftentimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And so you're out there in the trenches and when you get a tight 5 minutes or whatever, and you're like, oh, I got a good tight, I got good 5 minutes of new material. I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
You walk around like you got something in your pocket. You know?
I talk to people about that all the time.
To describe for somebody to say, like, don't you wish you were more successful? I mean, it's very difficult it's probably not a good idea to let other people define what success is in the first place.
You're so right.
That's problematic. I mean, in terms of like making a living, I do remember one time my mother saying that and this is about the closest thing I've ever gotten in terms of a compliment from my mom. She said that a friend of hers at the church said, oh, your son's a musician. Oh, yeah, well, you've probably had to help him out from time to time. My mom said, nope. And she was proud.
Yeah.
I could tell she was proud.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I love the other mom. The other mom must have had some serious, like with those musicians in her family, in her kids, like calling that call once every 8 months. Car got towed, rent's due, and I swear I'll pay you back.
Well, I suggest you get a girlfriend.
Yeah, man, it's so fucking crazy, man. I really, really wonder how people play music these days.
I think it's great. I think it's better than it's ever been in many ways.
Yeah.
You're
out there, so explain it to me. You mean in touring or the internet?
Well, I think like for me, I've looked back at all my records now, and I realize now I've pretty much made a record like every 2 years and done some kind of big tour behind it.
Right.
And, my heroes, of course, the Bob Dylans and the Lou Reeds and everything, but my heroes in many ways these days are people like John Sayles and, Woody Allen. And Woody Allen's made a movie every year.
Yep.
And John Sayles, I just read something with him recently where he has a movie about something happened in the border in Imperial Valley or something, and he sent some kid out there with a camera and said, I need some footage of the border patrol, and he came back and the kid said, all I could get was like this one little piece because they busted me and they wanted a permit. So he says, well, what do you got? He goes, I got about 5 seconds. And John Sayles looks at it, he goes, yeah, we'll slow it down. We'll get about 10 seconds out of that, you know what I mean? And so I think there's that people like John Sayles, he's made his money as, I think, in many ways as a writer on other people's films. But he's always managed to make great films all the way from Baby It's You to, the Golden State or the Sunflower State. And he's just been an incredible filmmaker, and those are the guys that I look to for inspiration. You know,
Right.
like,
yeah, like me, like Louis C.K.
Keeping
He's
it going.
constantly writing and performing and making shows and doing specials, you know?
yeah, and he's not always dependent upon other people's money.
Yeah.
You know, he can throw his own money in. There's different ways to get the money now, and I can license my records to a label, and then I don't get as much money, but the rights will revert back to me. So someday, you know, who knows? So there's lots of ways to do it, and there's lots of ways to, you know, write these songs, figure out a way to wrestle them to the ground, get them to behave, try to get them in the studio with a group of musicians that are sensitive, that are intense. Try to get those songs to stick to the tape.
Yeah.
You know, get the tape to come back, get a good guy to master it, and get that to come through people's speakers, and hopefully, you know, connect with somebody, go out on tour, you know, load up the van, load into the gig, put those pull those jumper cables out into the audience and see if you can get something going. You know? And so, I mean, for me, whether it's, you know, Berlin, Germany, or, you know, Hudson, New York, or, you know, Albany, New York, or whatever, or, you know, we've returned to these places and you know, managed to build an audience over the years, and like I think it's great.
That's badass. I did see that one of your records, you gave the people that worked on it part of the rights to the masters, like kind of like a credit, like, hey, you can get some money if you work on the record.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that was probably the Soap and Water record after I was on New West and kind of got, you know, dropped.
Yeah.
I cried, Dean. I did.
Well, hold on. Let's talk about that a little bit. You put out a record. Lucinda Williams loves it. All of a sudden, you got Buzz again going, you know. You do Letterman. You tour with her. And then what? You get dropped from the label after?
Yeah, I mean, they put a lot of... Well, there was a song called Summertime Thing that got some play at radio. And radio's a dogfight. I mean, I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was about. But it cost them a lot of money. And they got invested into this, and they were watching it go up. Oh, it's just past the Wallflowers, and it's past Bruce Springsteen. Oh, it's creeping up next to Sheryl Crow. And so this song "Summertime Thing" became a top 10 AAA radio song, and they ended up throwing a lot of money at it to get it to do that.
Right.
I don't really understand all the ins and outs of it,
but it's
just sort of I'm just kind of ignorant.
No, I get it.
Blissfully ignorant about it. But I think they woke up with probably about an $80,000 hangover.
Yeah.
And they're like, this guy should be doing better.
Well, that's crazy, right? It's on the radio, but it's not transferring into sales. But that's also at the time where people are starting to really steal music.
I don't know. I mean, I think it was happening. I just don't think it was happening fast enough for them, you know.
How did that Letterman
But anyway, to answer your question about sharing the copyrights with the musicians.
Yep.
I didn't really have a record deal. I thought maybe I wasn't going to make records anymore. And I went and made some demos with our friend JJ Weisler.
Yeah.
And JJ, you know, turned to me, he said, boy, this sounds like the start of a cool record. And so he was, you know, with his studio, he said, you know, if you wanted to make a record, we could work something out. And then so I got some musicians and we made a record called Soap and Water. And ended up Mark Kozlik from Sun Kill Moon,
Red House Painters.
Yeah, he helped me out, and he took it to the guys at Yep Rock in North Carolina, a great label. And so they said, yeah, we'd like to license this record and work something out. And so it was pretty uncomplicated. And then we, you know, kind of got it going. James joined the band on guitar, and we went out and played. We played on Letterman. And
that was pretty cool, right? Playing Letterman. Yeah. I mean, after all your career, you're finally on Letterman.
We caught a little bit of a wave with that record.
Right. Yeah. And when it's funny, I was thinking when you're on Letterman and you're not sure if you're ever going to be back, but to me, I was like, if it was my Audible, I'm like, all right, we go on, we do New Year's Day. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, okay, finally people are going to hear this song in America. It's like, you know, what I was thinking, like, okay, here it is. Did you ever think about just playing a song that wasn't on the record there, or was it to push that record?
Well, I mean, luckily for us, we were excited about that song, and it was a good fit. I actually called when we got invited to do the show. I called a friend of mine who's played on there a lot, you know, and I called my friend Greg Leese actually, and he had been on there recently with somebody, and I guess Paul Schaefer came over to him when they were sound checking and said, hey guys, I noticed there's a little organ on the record, but it's not on the. You don't have anybody here today to play. I could cover that part, and I guess they were, whoever Greg was playing with said, no man, it's cool,
Wow.
And so he said it was a little chilly after that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So as soon as I heard that, I just figured out a way get the whole band involved.
Yeah.
I said, if they're not doing hand claps, then we got a horn section, and even Felicity, the guitar player.
Yeah.
I had her like playing cowbell,
Yeah.
And they were happy. I think some of them I don't know how it works, but I think sometimes they get double scale or something. The guy that wrote the horn chart was pleased,
Why? Yeah, right.
Because as he left, they go out that side door that we've seen a million times.
Yep.
When Letterman goes out there.
Yeah.
As he was leaving, the horn player, I can't remember the guy's name. He was a great guy. He's a tenor player. He was in the Blues Brothers band.
Wow.
In the film. The guy's a legend. It'll come to me as soon as I'm sure it will come to me. But he was leaving, and I said, hey, thanks for the horn chart. Thanks for pulling that together. And he was holding a briefcase, and he said, my pleasure. And he said, see this briefcase? It's full of money.
Oh, he said that? That's brutal because, you just went on and made a little bit of scratch, and this guy.
Oh, I loved it. No, I mean, he was joking.
Oh, yeah,
I loved it all.
Course,
I mean, yeah, Schaefer hung. We had Steffi was playing a Farfisa organ that we couldn't barely. Andy Taub loaned it to us, but it was one of those things where if you looked at it wrong, it would break. And after the show, we were all hanging out, and I saw Stephanie, my wife, over there with Paul Schaefer, and they were pressing all the buttons on the Farfisa.
Hilarious.
Nobody was in a hurry to go home.
Yeah.
It was a great experience.
That's so cool, man.
Especially when you're a fan.
Yeah. Oh, God. What a great show. Of all those years, you just think late night in your hotel room on the road, you just threw that on, to kill noise in your head. And it was always funny as fuck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So good. Now, you're married to Stephanie. She plays in the band. You guys, how long have you been married now?
Well, I think we got married in 1998.
Wow. At Slim's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to Molly last night at the Punchline, who books the Punchline. She went to the wedding.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. She was dating the guy that lived with Jakir at the time.
Oh,
that played in Go-Go Market.
Oh, is she a red-haired gal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember her.
Yeah.
Did she books the Punchline?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Great woman. She loves music. She's a huge music head, loves the Black Crowes and stuff like that.
Oh, that's great, yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. So,
I remember her.
I mean, you got your wife in your band. You guys did Go-Go Market for a while. That was cool. It was like her band, right?
Yeah, when we started playing, we were just in the back room of the Albion, and she was going out with my best friend at the time, Patrick Winningham.
Oh, yeah.
And, we were all singing, and one time, I mean, this is the way I tell the stories, that one time I was singing, and she started singing with me, and I said, hey, what are you doing with your voice? And she said, I'm singing. I said, yeah, I know, but what are you doing with your voice? And she said, harmony?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to do that. So that's really where it started. We would sing together, and oftentimes we just played as a duo.
And then you guys start going out. Does that bad water with fucking Patrick, or did that?
He ended up being the best man at our wedding. I mean, he's a great guy. He's, he's raised two lovely daughters, and he's still my closest friend.
Yeah.
He ended up being. I mean, we all kind of. There were people that borrowed each other's guitars and never got them back either.
Yeah.
A lot going on, A lot more than things aren't always what they appear.
Yeah.
But and Patrick, a great songwriter himself. He had a bunch of songs that ended up in the. I mean, his band was kind of cherry picked when the Counting Crows got a record deal. I don't know if they were like a band.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if they were like actively a band. But when they finished that record and needed to go out on the road, they just cherry-picked the guys out of Patrick's band.
Right. August and everything after that record.
I think it was Charlie Gillingham had played with Patrick, and also Dan, the guitar player.
Yeah.
Just, and Patrick, in many ways, I don't think he recovered. But they took those songs with them. So he had over the years, there's been a handful of songs that the Counting Crows have played that Patrick, wrote or co-wrote.
Oh, that's right.
Or whatever,
That's right. Yeah, and so
songs that we used to do back, in the back room of the Albion. I mean, we were competitive.
Yeah.
You probably understand this with comedians. I mean, we were competitive in terms of songwriting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like Steve Yerke was such a great songwriter, and he was so advanced, and Patrick was a great songwriter. I was trying to write songs as good as these guys, and we would play these shows on Saturday, and then we were really, I think it was a really healthy competition.
Yeah, well, you need that.
But Patrick had those songs like, I don't know, Four White Stallions, I think, was one of them that the Crows ended up doing. And anyway. And Steve Yerke, too, just an incredible songwriter that's.
It's funny because, like, when I got some early Counting Crows demos before they're together, then they break up, then they come back again. But early, they just sound like the Police. Adam Duritz sounds like Sting, and it's like a totally different sound. It's so bizarre to hear these demos.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
You're not a fan. I can tell you. Hilarious. I like that record a lot, but it's funny because that's definitely that era of like the city, all of a sudden there are these bands getting deals that you're like, who are these guys? I never even heard of these guys, like bands were coming out. Like I had Jellyfish, guys from Jellyfish on and stuff. And I don't even remember these bands playing clubs. All of a sudden they had deals,
Yeah.
Do you remember any of those bands? I don't.
I do remember when the money kind of came to town.
Yeah.
And I think this, the late '90s, the CD era, and I do remember that. I mean, I had already been like a 3-time loser.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
How many times?
I mean, Green on Red was a funny band. I mean, the first time we played in London, we had when I met those guys in like '85, they said, well, if you want to join the band, you're going to need a passport. And then within a couple of weeks, we were on a Swedish tour. And then on the way back, flying out of London, they said, the Swedish guys said, if you want to play a gig in London, you can play a gig in London. We said, sure, whatever. And so they said, here's the directions. Here's where you're going to go. This is what you do. You take the tube. You got to buy a carton of Rothman Blue cigarettes for this guy.
Oh.
He'll meet you. This is where you're going to go in Earl's Court. You're going to go into this, check into this hotel. And we played a gig at a place called Gossips, which was like a goth bar in Piccadilly.
Right.
And I swear the opening band was the Jesus and Mary Chain.
Wow.
And
no shit.
They got thrown off the stage after, I'd say, about 3 songs.
Wow.
I thought they were pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
And there was like a transvestite bartender that was, they were like turning, they were trying to get feedback in their amps, and it was just kind of, shambles, but, they were pretty charming. And the bartender, after like 3 songs, he just came out from behind the bar, and he just went calmly, like, turned the amps off. And just,
no.
So let's go.
No.
I think that's enough.
No,
they were chugging cans of ale on stage.
Really?
Yeah. I think that's enough. And they were all very polite about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good day to you, sir.
Yeah, they were all very polite about it. Yeah, we played. There were probably about 30 people there, But, and the next week we were in all the weekly papers.
Wow.
And that led to us getting a record deal. So it wasn't like, we.
Do you remember showcasing
as well
for any big labels as
Never.
Chuck Prophet? Never?
No.
Isn't that crazy? Because
I mean, we would go to South by Southwest, just because, that's what we did.
Yeah, right. But it's wild to think that these records, when I listen to them, because they're right in there with Ryan Adams and Wilco and all that. To me, the songwriting is incredible. The singing, the playing, everything. It was always strange to me, like, where's the big labels at, for these guys right here? And you were packing them in during the hurting business. Like, your shows were all sold out all the time in the city, And it's weird to think that no big labels came sniffing around.
They might have. I just don't remember it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Feast of Hearts was on a British label. I mean, part of it was that I was always signed to British labels.
Yeah.
I was signed to Fire Records, cool label that had like bands like Pulp and Teenage Fan Club. Then I was signed to a label called China Records out of London. And, they ended up licensing the records back to a couple, they weren't really picked up by major labels here. And then And then I was on Cooking Vinyl Records, which was a cool label run by this guy, Martin Goldschmidt, who's still there. And so I was on British labels, and we would always go and tour England and tour, the European continent. And our attitude about North America was like, well, it's pretty vast out there, and maybe if we just ignore it, it'll go away. We'd be pretty fried when we got back, from European tours.
And if there's no money, you're not going to go do it.
Yeah, we just thought it would go away, and it wasn't until later that I got an American manager, and he said, look, you're going to have to get a van, and you're going to have to go out there and play gigs.
Right.
And so, we would go out and play Austin, and, Minneapolis, Tampa, Florida, New York, but, in between, tumbleweeds.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa was probably one of the first gigs that we got more than $500,
Wow.
But now it's a great market for us, and we, play.
No
we
shit.
play there a lot. Yeah, Tampa, Florida is just.
What are the big cities you play a lot in the States?
Well, I think it's still like Austin is, great. Minneapolis, Seattle maybe. There are rock and roll towns, I mean, I think Austin's a rock and roll town. I think people, they know how to go to gigs. It's part of their culture.
Nashville's
more of an industry culture.
Gotcha. They don't really go out like that.
I mean, we do okay there. It's not a big deal. But, I mean, I don't think that it's part of their culture. There's a lot of industry there, so there's more showcases and things like that. But, Nashville's changed a lot as well.
You go out there a lot and write with people?
I did around the late 90s. I had a publisher that probably around that time of Homemade Blood when nothing was happening. And I had a publisher, and he said, we think we'd like to send you out to Nashville and get you co-writing with some people. Maybe you can, write a country hit. Yeah. And I was like, well, okay, maybe after that you can send me to L.A. and I'll write a screenplay. I just didn't really. Yeah. I just thought it was kind of goofy, but I mean, I got a hotel, rent a car on per diems, and I started going out there and met a lot of the people that really kind of saved me in many ways. People like Kim Ritchie and Angelo, and I've written over the years with Dan Penn, and we've gotten a few things cut over time, and then Alejandro was later, but I've known him for a long time.
What about the Lucinda thing? Like, first of all, I think Car Wheels on the Gravel Road, best record come out in like 20 years, man. Like, when I heard that thing, it was just flooring. But you were out on tour with her, and that seemed like a perfect fit. She is amazing. What was that tour like?
It was great. It was a summer tour. It was the summer of 2002. We had a song on the radio. Yeah. Lucinda's crew treated us really great, and Lucinda was really happy, and she's really generous. Yeah. I mean, one time there was a gig and like at a society gig in Long Island with like white fold-out chairs and this tent and this kind of like strange society gig. I didn't really know what was going on, and I went to get paid, and the guy was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." Yeah. So I got confused, and eventually I talked to Lucinda's manager. I said, "Yeah, I don't mean to bother you, but I got kind of confused. Couldn't get paid." He goes, "Oh yeah, I got your money." And then it kind of became clear that like Lucinda was paying for us.
Yeah, right. Wow.
And didn't really want us to know.
Wow.
Yeah, because
that's
that was a gig that she had probably already had set in stone, and it wasn't up to her to. They weren't looking for an opener.
Just brought you along.
But he's on the tour, or he's on the tour.
Wow, so that's pretty.
So work it out.
Yeah,
yeah. That's pretty typical of her. She's pretty generous.
What guitar are you playing now? Like the whole time I knew you were playing that Telly. I think it was a Japanese Telly or a Mexican one, right?
Yeah, I still play.
Was it Japanese?
I think it's Japanese. Yeah.
Yeah. But I saw you on Letterman. When you played Letterman, you were playing a Strat.
I just thought it looked better with the clothes. A white Stratocaster, yeah.
I was like, wait, this guy's on a Strat, man. I never seen it. You still play that same Telly?
Yeah.
And then what's your amp?
Ideally a deluxe reverb.
Wow.
Sometimes two of them.
Yeah. You had the 68s, right?
We keep a Princeton that rotates.
Yeah. I remember that was your thing, man.
I think it's maybe earlier than 68. It's a blackface. I don't know.
It's blackface.
I have a couple of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a sound.
One of them I've tried to keep stock, and that's the good one.
The studio record one.
Yeah, I take it out,
Your guitar playing's amazing. Who were your guys when you were growing up? Because, I mean, you know, you weren't obviously into the, like, rock era, you know? Like, what were you into?
I was into records, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I was definitely into
Mick Taylor, stuff like that?
Well, I was into records, you know. Like, I was into, you know, Hunky Dory by Bowie and, you know, the Stones. And, you know, my sister had great records and her boyfriends had great records like Mott the Hoople. So I think I was, you know, into records more than I was into guitar playing, you
Right.
know.
But it's fucking
And I would
killer.
often like play the melody line on guitar. I did things wrong. I'd play the melody line on guitar, like the Ventures or something. So,
Yeah,
but, you know, I think you develop your style from singing. I don't know. I mean, later I really loved Richard Thompson and you know, but I liked his records. You know, I liked the records, especially the ones from the '70s with Linda.
Yeah.
So you know,
But the guitar playing's fucking incredible.
I do like that wiry. I like attracted to wiry guitar players like
Yeah, man.
J.J. Cale and Richard Thompson and maybe Robbie Robertson and Curtis Mayfield and
Curtis Mayfield, right? That shit is incredible.
Lindsey Buckingham.
Yeah, another great one. Just outside the box playing. Yeah, I mean you're the singer and you crush it on guitar, you know, which is amazing. And it's a lot like. Did you ever get into Y&T?
No.
I was wondering, you know, because that guy's great songwriter, great.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Worth investigating.
Yeah, I think
my dad used to share. My dad had an office in the East Bay, and he was always asking me about Y&T because I think my dad had one of those offices where you share like offices with other people, and I'll get your mail together or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he was always asking me about Y&T and what did I know about him. I said I don't know a lot, Dad. but I mean, I've been writing songs with Tommy Dunbar from this band, the Rubinoos, recently.
Yeah.
And they played my high school.
Yeah.
That had a pretty big influence on me. They were like a 4-piece band that if you stood back and squinted, you'd think, oh, these guys are like the Bay City Rollers. You know?
Wow.
But they were all great singers, and they were really into singing. Whether it was the Jackson 5 or like Tommy James, and Tommy Dunbar was an incredible guitar player. They were like an incredible 4-piece band, and I always thought that was like, you know, the way you did it. And generally when they did I probably saw them like 25 times when I was in high school.
Yep.
And when they did an encore, they'd generally do like a surf song, or they'd do like, you know, an Ennio Morricone. You know?
Yeah.
And pretty big influence on me. A lot of the Berserkly bands in the East Bay were real important to me.
Who was that around?
Well, Jonathan Richman. And, you know, the Rubinoos and Greg Kihn band.
Greg Kihn, man.
And
that shit was
even Earthquake.
That shit. Greg Kihn, man.
So I think Earthquake might have been contemporaries of Y&T, or they were like a boogie band, you know.
Yeah. I think you'd like
had a screaming singer, John Dukas, and they're probably like Humble Pie or something.
Yeah.
You know.
You ever play that Keystone Berkeley over there back in the day?
Yeah. I saw some great gigs there. I mean, I saw Joan Jett play there for like 35 people on a school night.
Wow.
I played a gig. My high school band played with REM there.
Wow.
Probably for like 75, 100 people. I mean, it was an interesting experience because, you know, I've gotten to know Peter Buck over the years, and over the years I've seen him, and, you know, Green on Red in the early days played on bills with REM and stuff, and that night that we opened for REM, the band I was in played a cover of the MC5's High School, a song called High School.
Yeah.
And after we were done playing, you know, I was just playing pinball in the back. I mean, I was just a kid.
Yeah.
I was playing pinball. And Peter Buck came over to me, and he had those long French cuffs hanging out of his jacket, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, man, you know, cool set, man. Nice MC5 cover.
Yeah.
And that was like our first conversation, and I still feel like we're still having that same conversation. It's just sometimes years go by where we don't check in. But, you know.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Who else you playing with back then? Do you remember anybody? Because like it was great playing these venues. You would open for these big. I would open for big ass bands. You know.
Also, I think because San Francisco was one like gig from LA.
Yeah. Yep.
So I saw a lot of gigs too, like Joan Jett, and I saw Phil Seymour,
right?
Who you know, has that great power pop record. He's got that stripe. He's wearing those sort of mariner stripes on the cover. Like I remember he was wearing that shirt. You know I mean?
Wear the shirt from the album cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Hilarious on the tour.
Yeah. Well, probably the first gig. You start in L.A. and then you come up here, and
Yeah.
it's hard to route on the West Coast. It's always been hard for bands to route.
It is, right?
Yeah. If you live in the middle of the country, if you live in Nashville or something, there's so much you can do. But
Yeah, especially on,
but
like,
here we got 12 hours to Portland.
Yeah, it's fucking
That's
brutal.
the first gig.
I mean, unless you can figure out how to do like back in the day, you could stop and do New George's in Marin, and then maybe something in Santa Rosa on the way that would pick up gas money and then keep going and stop in like Eugene, Oregon.
I guess, yeah, Eugene. Yeah. I
pick
mean,
up something.
my current manager, my current British manager, Chris Metzler, booked a gig in Eugene, and he booked Green on Red.
Yeah.
And then later he told me that, we work together all the time, that he had booked Alex Chilton for $150.
Wow.
At that same gig, yeah.
What do you got? 13 solo records out?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe 13,
Maybe.
dude. That's crazy. What was that thing you did where you played the Clash London Calling record?
Well, there's a promoter in Spain called the Houston Party.
Yep.
And they have a festival every year, and they kind of curate it. And one of the things that came up was like, maybe you could do a record. And I was like, well, if I was to do that, I'd want to do London Calling, because that's the ultimate gateway drug for me. The Clash, that record especially was kind of, it's hard to describe. It's probably world music, it's got rockabilly, it's got like folk music on it, it's got like glam rock and
reggae,
ska, and I mean, it's like all in there. And that was the record to me that opened up all these possibilities. Because in 1981, hardcore punk was pretty militant. It was really boring,
Yeah.
And so I said, well, maybe we could do that record. And then I figured the only way I could do it is if I got Chris Von Snyder to do the Mick Jones parts. And so that took he took some coaxing. but I got him on board, and then we went over to Spain and we did that festival where we performed that record from start to finish.
Wow! And then they recorded.
And then we went and did like a dozen dates, and
that's amazing. Did it come out as a live record?
Well, the last gig we filmed a television show, and then that came out as a DVD.
Oh wow! I got to see that.
The last gig was in Bilbao.
Is that on YouTube or anything?
I'll get you a DVD.
Yeah, I got to see that, man, because it's one of my favorite records ever. I saw The Clash a few times. Did you ever see them?
I saw them, but it was not their finest hour.
Like with The Who or something?
No, I saw them without Mick Jones.
Oh, wow. The last, where they tried to keep it together after the US Festival.
Yeah, it was
after
called
83.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the... Cut the Crap was the tour.
Right, yeah.
But we all hung out with Joe Strummer during that period. He was in... Joe Strummer was in San Francisco a lot.
He was, man. I saw his band all the time. They played the Fillmore.
Well, no, he was here doing a film, doing the music. So I saw him around a few times. I saw him at Cha 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 one time.
Wow.
One time I was walking down Haight Street and I just like looked in a window, on a rainy night, and I looked in the window and then and Joe Strummer just looked back at me.
Wow. Did you go in and talk to him?
No, I'd met him before a few times actually. I met him. Green on Red did a tour of Japan, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, this would have been 90 or something, 91 maybe, I don't know. And the promoters said, oh, tomorrow you guys have a night off. Do you want to go see the Pogues?
Yeah.
And we said, sure. So we went to see the Pogues in this kind of auditorium. And the weird thing is that in Japan, people, we're a lot taller than the average Japanese person,
Yeah.
And it's just a sea of black heads, And so we kind of walked through the crowd, and they could see us. They're like, who are these gringos?
Yeah.
And literally the guy that, like the guitar tech or the guy doing monitors, he like waved us back.
Yeah.
So we went to the side of the stage and watched the show from behind the monitor board. And they had a flight case, like this, with a blender and vodka and
just making daiquiris or something,
like drinks, and then and it was on wheels.
Yeah,
and they would make like a round of drinks and just
No, kick it out onto the
kick
stage.
it out to the stage, and they were all just picking it up. You know?
No way.
There was so much drinking going on. Yeah. At one point, Joe Strummer was in the band.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, it was during that period.
Yeah.
I should point out to people, and they did London Calling and everything. At one point, Joe had done London Calling or Brand New Cadillac or something, and he took off his guitar and he just kind of swung it around, and it hit the stage and was spinning around and just kind of landed right at my feet.
Wow. Wow.
That iconic guitar.
Yeah, that telly.
Yeah, and then afterwards we all ended up at some bar, until the sun came up, and I just sat right next to Strummer, and I was like, so, like, where did you get that guitar? And he's like, yeah, Denmark Street, 1975, 100 quid.
Fucking.
And so he answered all my corny questions, even to the point where the Pogues started coming around. Like,
yeah. We've never heard this either.
We've never heard this. We were always afraid to ask.
Yeah.
And, well, who wrote Rock the Casbah? And, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he was, completely game to spill it.
What a king, right?
Yeah,
so,
he enjoyed it.
So he was tragic. That guy.
We were in this booth, and he was really enjoying himself.
Yeah, this fucking guy was just fucking badass.
But
man.
he was around San Francisco a lot. I think that he did like a soundtrack for one of those Alex Cox movies, like
right.
up here on Russian Hill.
Yeah.
So he was spotted a lot at the time.
Fuck, never seen that guy around. To me, it was just. I saw.
And one night he spun records at KUSF, and this girl that I know was like, "Hey, Joe Strummer's up here. He's going to be coming here. If you guys want to come hang out." So we went over there, and
wow.
And he was playing records, and we were all going through the library together, and the Sun Sessions,
Wow.
And so, yeah, he was a cool guy.
That you think that's the record that really blew it open for you, London Calling?
Yeah, in many ways. Yeah, like this is what's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, punk rock was great for me because when I was growing up, like rock music was made by like these guys in capes, with castles, and, Peter and Gabriel, swords, Peter and Gabriel, and Jen. I don't know. And when punk rock came around, it just changed everything.
Yeah.
It showed what was possible. But I mean, I'd seen gigs. I'd been to gigs in Hollywood and stuff. I grew up in Orange County.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, X and all that stuff.
I mean, really, I don't know. Before that, I saw. When I was like 14, I went with some guys from the neighborhood, and we went to the Starwood, and we were and we ended up seeing Quiet Riot.
Wow.
Randy Rhoads was on guitar.
Wow.
So I was like,
wow.
right in front.
Yeah.
And at that point, I didn't think, this is something you could do.
Yeah.
I mean, I played guitar with my friends and everything.
Right.
We were stoner kids and skateboard kids, but I didn't think it was something you could do.
Yeah.
Especially to see the way Randy Rhoads played. We thought that was normal.
That's so interesting to hear you talk about Randy Rhoads because I don't picture you ever knowing that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But were you into some of that 80s stuff?
No, definitely not. No,
definitely not
at all. No.
Yeah,
definitely not. Not at all. No, this would have been in the 70s.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. But
then later, I had a roommate who was like a stoner that would go to Metal Mondays and stuff, and he was way off into Ozzy and Randy Rhoads, and I'm like, I think I've seen that guy play.
Yeah.
Wow. I saw that guy play in a band called Quiet Riot.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy, man. Hilarious.
Yeah.
When
my sister kind of went. My older sister was a part of this crowd. Like, even before the first Van Halen record came out, there were some guys in my neighborhood, and they were like, "Oh, when this record comes out, it's gonna mess your head up."
Wow.
I'm like, why? He goes, well, he does this thing with the guitar. I can't even explain it.
Wow.
He does this thing with the guitar, and it's just like the 4th of July. I can't even explain it.
4th of July.
It's just explosive.
It's like the 4th of July.
Yeah, you're not even. It's gonna mess your head up, man.
Wow.
And so when that record came out and Eruption was a thing.
Yeah.
It was like this.
That's wild.
I mean?
Yeah,
like they should just put that on tour, like King Tut. Just.
Did you go to that King Tut in Golden Gate Park? I went to that back in the day.
No, I remember it from earlier than that. I mean, I think it's been on tour for a long time.
I saw it in the 70s.
Yeah.
At Golden Gate Park, I remember it was like King Tut.
No, it's been on tour. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it still is.
Yeah, King Tut's got a good booking agent.
Yeah. That's fantastic, though.
You think you would ever leave San Fran?
I hope not.
Right.
You know, it's my home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it here. I mean,
you travel a lot. I travel a lot. And sometimes you see places and go, hey, I could live here.
No, not really.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I love it. I mean, also, aside from the fact that it's been my education and, it's, I love our neighborhood. And, it's home for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's difficult to go, I mean, I enjoy other places like Nashville, but, there's a conservative vibe there.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, we're one good earthquake away from cheap rent again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be great.
That's what I always say. It's shake those techies right out of here.
Yeah. Well, the last time there was a big earthquake,
89.
I got evicted from the warehouse that I was living in.
Oh, wow. In 89?
Yeah.
Wow. You were living in a warehouse. Where at?
Yeah, I was living in a warehouse across from the Right Spot on Folsom. 2150 Folsom was the address.
Right.
Yeah, and I get kind of sad thinking about it because of what happened to these poor kids in Oakland.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's fucking
and
horrible.
even with that warehouse, that was when the zoning got changed. There was a lot in 1989. There was a lot of empty real estate here.
There was.
People just didn't really know it, and they didn't want you to know.
Yeah.
Because that even drives the square foot rates even down further. And
yeah.
So I don't know who was in City Hall at the time, but they thought, well, we could change the zoning and make these live work.
Yeah.
And so I moved into a warehouse at the same time with a bunch of other people. That we all moved in this big warehouse, and we had separate units. And but I think about those kids in Oakland, and I think about even when I was living in that warehouse, it got a little bit Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
People just kind of started having strange rules and things that I didn't think were fair.
Yep.
And just that punk attitude of fuck the man and being wary of inspectors and things like that. And it was short-lived, but it was pretty intense. And, we moved out because the building got pink slipped or whatever happened after the earthquake.
Oh wow! It got something.
So we got
a foundation
settled.
Or something.
Yeah. There were foundation problems, and they put a slip on the door, and you had to be out of there. And
did they pay you to
30
leave?
30 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Paid us to leave. We hadn't been there that long, so they didn't pay us that much.
Right. So then you moved to your place that you have now.
Yeah.
Wow. It's incredible to think like if you lost that place, you wouldn't be able to live here.
I guess not.
There'd be no way.
Yeah, we're getting into one of my least favorite subjects, real estate.
I know. Well,
my least favorite subject.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I just talk about it because it's so fucking crazy what's going on, here and now. You get the spill off because then you get people that move to LA, and then all of a sudden that fucking goes up, and then Portland that goes up, and you're like, well, where can you live as an artist? Is just my point of it, Well,
I don't know, Dean. I mean, I don't know that everybody gets to be an artist.
I hear you. Yeah, I know, right? Maybe that makes part-timers tap out.
I mean, in a lot of ways, in fact, my guitar player, James DePreto, who I adore, he's much more than just my guitar player, but great guy. We had done some sessions with Prairie Prince, who's a great drummer and played so many great records like XTC and early Chris Isaak records, and just unbelievable. A lot of Todd Rundgren stuff, and he is probably the most teenage. I mean, if you close your eyes and listen to the way he plays and the choices that he makes, he's one of those guys that can completely overplay, but with taste. And there's just something about his groove. It's always surfing a little bit. It's always
super famous Bay Area,
and it's just he's just got the most teenage feel, and he's cool, and he's quick to laugh, and he's easy to play with, and James's theory is that the reason he's so cool is that he has another gig, is that he's a painter, is that he's an artist, and he's hired to do murals, and he's got another thing that he can do. And James says, well, yeah, that's why he's not broken,
Right.
So,
yeah.
My goal is to find something else that I can do so that, I won't be completely dependent on
what do you think
music,
it would be?
so the hinges, don't
right,
totally unhinged.
Yeah. What do you think you would do?
I don't know.
I mean, I started stand-up, and it's just wild to think at 44 years old, you play music 25
Well,
years.
I relate to stand-ups.
Yeah.
I relate in a big way. I mean, I don't really read books about music, or not really into that, because, oftentimes you read a book about music and it's like, oh, this is when David Geffen got the Eagles publishing. It's just, I get a little, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But in terms of, comedians and, what you do in terms of getting an hour's worth of material and what you go through, I mean, I'm a fan of that. I used to play with that guy, Barry Sobel, and I can't believe the people that we were around at the time in the city. It would have been Dana Carvey.
Yep.
Michael Pritchard, Bobby Slayton, Paula Poundstone.
Bobcat.
A. Whitney Brown.
Wow.
I saw Bobcat.
Yeah.
I was playing with Sobel. We were hanging out at the Holy City Zoo on Clement Street.
Yeah.
Rainy Wednesday night. 10 people there. It's kind of a weird, narrow room, right?
Yeah.
And this comedian says, at about 9 or 10 at night, he says, I got to split. I got to go to the airport, pick up this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, who's that? Oh, this guy that opened for me in Boston, but
Yeah.
he's going to be in the comedy competition. I said he could stay at my place, and so I'm going to go pick him up at the airport. So he goes, he leaves, probably an hour later, he's back.
Yeah.
He's got this guy with him.
Yeah.
And he says, hey, man, you want to go up and do a set? Okay.
Yeah.
So that was Bobcat Goldthwait.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I saw him do
Like the first day he moved
Yeah, he just he walked in, he went up, he did 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. And I thought, this guy's really unique,
Yeah.
And he was kind of living in my neighborhood for a little while there. And I would see him from time to time. And also the other place that I used to always see comedians was on the Midnight Flyer.
Yeah.
There was I think the airlines was PSA. Is that possible?
I don't know.
There
TSA.
No, I think it was PSA. Every night at midnight, there was a flight to LA, and it was $30.
Really? I don't remember that at all.
And it went both ways.
Wow. Kind of like fucking
So it was just comedians and musicians, and
That's incredible.
I always ran into people on that flight.
Right.
And so I think I ran into him a couple times on that flight. He was probably going to LA to do auditions or
right.
or whatever, But he was he was a character. So that was just a golden time for comedy.
Yeah, that was the first.
I didn't really understand the breadth of it when it was happening.
That's the first giant fucking wave of comedy. They say, that '80s when we had Alex Bennett and that morning radio show, Carrie Snow and stuff, and then comedy was booming, and that SF comedy competition was giant. If you won that, you were on your way.
I know Barry had come from improv at a place in North Beach called the Old Spaghetti Factory.
Oh yeah,
that was his scene. He's still out there. I mean, he's clown shit crazy. He's just wonderful. But
yeah,
I've seen him a few times in the last few years, and I think he ended up going. I think he ended up as a writer at SNL.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, for maybe a year.
Wow.
Paul Fallon's guy, I think. I don't.
Wow. Do you watch modern comedy? You watch guys now?
I should probably go out and do more of that.
Yeah.
But in terms of traveling and empty motel rooms and I mean I relate to the stand-up guys. I still do a lot of solo tours.
Oh yeah. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Just you and the acoustic?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many of those a year you do?
I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 or.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
I kind of do them in between tours or when I'm trying to get new material together.
Yeah.
Or sometimes a kind of a victory lap because sometimes I'm hemorrhaging so much money when I'm taking the band out, that I can do a little bit of a victory lap and pay myself to do solo gigs. Or there's some rooms that don't make sense to have a band. There's great rooms in the States like the Tin Angel in Philadelphia and Club Passim in Cambridge, and those are great folk rooms.
Right.
They're great for playing solo. So I relate to stand-up guys. I mean, probably as much as I do to musicians. Plus, you're writers.
Yeah, it's so fucking. It's kind of the same animal, but not. it gets down to writing lyrics is like writing jokes. I think that you're trying to tell a story or something. Every story you think has been told in lyrics, you know what I mean? And the same with comedy. We're all looking at the same fucking stuff, and you got to dig deep and find your own voice, which is exact to lyrics in writing, you know? How many, we all write love songs, but it has to be something that you really happened to you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's all out there, and, you know, it doesn't take a whole lot of craft to get a chord change and, you know,
Yep.
get something that's kind of melodic over the top and, you know, some kind of she done me wrong. But I guess, you know, it's always a challenge to, you know, if it's personal, I think
Yeah.
can cut and hurt.
Absolutely.
That's what you want.
Wow.
Right?
Man. That's what you want. I mean, you're married all this time. It's like, how do you write love songs when you're married that long? You know, you got the same. To me, it's all about over and over heartbreak, right? Writing songs.
I mean, if I can get a song that has a subject matter that is someplace I haven't been before, then I'm more excited about it.
Exactly.
And, you know, I mean, come on. I mean, do you think Bob Dylan's had that many great relationships? Like that many just, you know,
yeah,
epic,
yeah,
romantic, you know, I mean, no.
Well, you need the breakups for Blood on the Tracks.
I guess so, yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
What do you got coming up, man? You got a new record?
Well, I have a new record that's coming out February 10th.
Oh, badass.
There's a single. I mean, I turned it into the label. They, you know, and they said we got to do something because you've got this song called "Bad Year for Rock and Roll," and it, you know, in the first verse it name checks the Thin White Duke, and
oh wow.
You know, but it's more not really about all the people that we lost this year. It's really more about losing faith, you know,
right?
And losing faith in rock and roll, and losing faith in a year where everybody's had their faith and decency tested.
Yeah, right.
You know,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Brexit. You know, I mean, the wounds are here. You know, I mean, we're getting ready to go over to the UK in February, and you know, the pound's at $1.20, and you know, and things didn't quite turn out the way we thought they would. We've got our election fallout, so it's about losing faith. And I mean, I'm happy to go to England. We were talking about you and I were talking earlier about how certain cities have that gig culture, you know.
Yep.
And one thing I do love about, you know, playing the UK, which is really the first place that we toured, you know.
Yeah.
When Steffi and I after that record Balinese Dancer came out, you know, we had a label over there, and there was a little bit of tour support, a van, a driver, backline, and we would just play every one of those pubs up and down the Angry Island, man.
Wow.
You know, if it had a sticky black floor, and you know, and pints of beer, that was, you know, we played. And one thing I remember about it was that, you know, there would be a calendar on the wall somewhere, and either who's the guitar player from Dr. Feelgood? Wilco Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
He'd either been there,
or was coming. Yeah. You were behind him or ahead of him.
Yeah, exactly.
One of those.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we learned to do what we do. That was the 10,000 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and so even returning there, I still love it. And it's and they just have that culture. You know, you get a pint of beer. You know, you pony up to the front.
Yeah, and you just go raw.
They heckle and you fat bastard. We don't like us. They don't like us. We don't care. Whatever, you know?
A lot of wanker.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
That's fucking,
you know?
That's rock and roll,
so
man.
I'm getting ready to do that in February. Got a new record coming out.
What's the record called?
It's called Bobby Fuller Died for Your Sins.
Wow. And where'd you do it? In SF?
Yeah, we did it at Hyde Street right here in the heart of the Tenderloin.
Fuck, that place is crazy. I love that room.
I love it, yeah. And I love those guys, you know. I mean, we're living in a time when studios are closing every day. People are complaining that they can't make money, you know. And Michael Ward, God bless him, he's run Hyde Street is a continuously running studio. It's been a continuously running studio in some form or another for 39 years.
I think
he's run it since the early 80s.
Wow.
You know, I was talking to one of the engineers. We were working on the record, and I said, well, what's going on? He goes, well, we're going to have our new C12, and a C12, by the way, is
Microphone.
It's a microphone. You know, it's generally regarded as the holy grail of all Frank Sinatra's microphone of choice.
Yeah.
Okay? Not that many of them out there.
Yeah.
The ones that are out there, they're not cheap. They sent one of the engineers to Berlin, to Hansa Studios, which was made famous by Bowie and
Right, yeah.
Iggy Pop and, of course, later U2 and everything, to buy the C12 and bring it back. So, you know, here you got a guy, Michael Ward, you know, he's running the studio in the Tenderloin, and, you know, when in doubt, double down.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they had a good month.
Yeah.
So
let's get a microphone.
Let's get a C12. We've always wanted another one. It'd be great to have a pair.
Wow.
So double down. And so God bless it. I mean, I'm there. It does my heart good to support the true believers. You know?
Yeah.
Or at least the ones that have the sickness, you know.
Yeah.
And those are my guys.
That's great,
So
man.
we did it at Hyde Street Studios.
Coming out in the States, the record?
Yeah, it's coming out February 10th on Yep Rock Records and Tapes.
Records and tapes.
You can pre-order it, and there's bundles.
Any vinyl
Bundle this.
on the old stuff,
Yeah,
like Hurting Business and all that?
Everything's come out on vinyl at some point.
Really?
I think Hurting Business and Homemade Blood only came out in Australia on vinyl, but there's vinyl out there of just about everything.
I got to find that.
Yeah.
I love to have that on vinyl, you know? You a vinyl guy?
Yeah, I'm an everything guy, really.
Yeah.
I never really got out of vinyl, but I also like CDs.
Yeah.
I like them in my car. I like cassettes, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever it is, you know. I mean, I talked to Joe at Amoeba, you know.
Yeah.
Joe Goldmark, I believe, the owner of Amoeba, and he's a great pedal steel player and still makes records, you know, like instrumental records. A very fascinating guy.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And I was talking to him. I said, what do you think of all this stuff? And he said, well, you know, I see these people walking around and they've got those white things in their ears, and he said, they're listening to music.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get that hung up on how the music or how the dope gets into my system. You can snort it. You can just stick it up your ass.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if you want to hear Dusty Spring, if you want to hear Dusty in Memphis and you want to hear it right now, you know, dial it up. So I still have, you know, records and CDs and cassettes and
that's fucking great.
Several iPods that, you know, one of them's broken at any given time. But yeah, I mean, it's all great. If you're not, unless you're in the studio when they're mixing the record, and you're between the speakers, and you know,
that's the raw form.
And Jimmy Page turns to Robert Plant and says, "That's it, right there. That's the one." Right? Oh, yeah, you got it, mate. You know, I mean, that's it. Because after that, you know, they make a safety, and then somebody masters it, and then it comes out on this. You know, there's this pressing. I mean, you know, everything's kind of a copy.
Yep. Yeah, there's no fucking uncut
It's that
version.
way with photography. You know, you see something in a magazine, you know, or in a book. That's not necessarily what the photographer wanted it to look like.
Not at all. It's that way with cocaine.
That was my next. That was going to be my next example.
Yeah. It never comes how the guys over there on Narcos made it. Right? Wow.
I'll take your word for it.
I just saying.
It's been a while. It's been 19 years.
19 years. Nothing?
Yeah. Oh, nothing. No.
Nothing.
I mean, I tried to get clean so many times.
Right.
But the program of complete abstinence is, you know, that's what worked for me.
What'd you use? AA?
Yeah.
Yeah. AA. You still go that?
Yeah. No, I've started going back in the last few years.
Did you have
I mean, I was kind of one of those guys where, like, I went for 5 years. I was kind of lived at meetings, and then, you know, you see them and they're sort of in the back of the room, or they're getting tattoos and kind of getting into other stuff. And But in the last few years, I returned, you know, because it's been some tough times in my family, really.
Oh, really?
My extended family. So
what's going on?
Well, just there's alcoholism, you know.
Oh, wow.
So rather than
I
just kind of found myself saying things like, "What you needed."
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, you know, maybe I should just go back to meetings and maybe, you know,
starts
maybe
rearing
get a
its head up.
sponsor.
Yeah,
That's my goal this year.
Did you slip off for a minute?
I just didn't go to meetings, you know.
I
just didn't, you know. But the fellowship was there, you know, and I mean, it saved my life.
Yeah, right. It's crazy. I mean, I think about when you told me that story, living in your car, and then here you are still playing music and alive. That's the win, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the goal was always, in terms of success, I think another thing that people have a hard time understanding is that it's not that, this record won't be big, or, that you won't get rich, or, I think that, it's pretty clear I'm probably not going to buy a yacht for my parents at this point.
Right, yeah.
But, once you accept that, I think the real fear is not, whether something won't be wildly successful. I think the real fear for me is that I'd have to stop.
Yeah.
So I'm still doing it, still getting off on it.
Yeah.
I got a great band, and I'm lucky enough to be playing with those guys, and when they're behind, when we're all up there doing it and it's clicking, there's just no Snapchat or anything that can really compete with that.
I feel the same
so I'm
way.
lucky,
My whole fear is not being able to work. Like now that I work as a comedian and I'm a working comedian, it's not necessarily about making the money, because I'll find money. I'll eBay something, or I'll Craigslist something, or I'll fucking do some kind of work or something, this podcast every day, whatever I got to do. It's, to me, and I found when I stopped playing music and was working at Harley, that the depression was so massive.
I'm sorry, you're working at Harley?
I worked at Harley for a couple years.
Did you sell motorcycles?
Yeah, man. I
Really?
hit rock bottom.
That's rock bottom?
Well, if you're on stage for 25 years and then all of a sudden you got to get a job and you're out of the arts completely, that's rock bottom as far as like, whoa, what happened? You know what I mean? I'm up at 7 every day, and I'm working 6 days a week, 10 hours a day for, to try to, make some money.
Always be closing.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And after a while, though, it's a rock bottom. It's not a rock bottom like, homeless and all that, but it's a rock bottom in your soul of like, wow, what happened? I stepped off the rocket,
Yeah, I mean, when you give 40, 50 hours a week to the job, it's hard.
It is.
It's hard to come home and start writing.
Yeah.
I mean, some people can do it.
You just want to get on that couch.
Then it's just like, if your art's that important to you, then you're going to steal car stereos. You're going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I guess, but freedom can also be a terrible thing.
It is.
And not having a structure in your life, and not, that can also, freedom is also
procrastinating when that happens, like, oh, I'll get to it. And then you think this is freedom. And then it's really,
and people don't honor it. The thing is to, if you've got that time now and are you going to honor it? And you got your time on stage. Are you going to honor that? People paid money.
Yeah. You're fucking right. Deliver, don't punch in. Right?
Yeah. That's all part of it too.
Yeah, it really is. You got to come see some comedy, dude.
Oh, I'm so behind. Yeah, but I've seen so much of it.
No, come see me though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I'll go see you in a second.
Well,
yeah.
I'm here tonight and 2 tomorrow.
Yeah. We'll work one of those out.
I'll put you guys on the list.
We'll work one of those out for sure.
It'd be crazy.
The last time I saw something at the Punchline was I saw Stephanie, my wife's old roommate, Rick Reynolds.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you remember him.
No.
But he just told just a completely hilarious story, which I think you could like dig. Where he's kind of a collector, he's just one of those guys that grew up with nothing.
Yeah.
And some of these guys that grew up with nothing, you just fixate and you
hoard.
Yeah, and or how do you say it when other people have the stuff what's the expression? You kind of fixate on that. You want it. I want that 55. I remember you had like a 50s Telecaster.
Yeah.
Your apartment that I played one day, and I'm like, Dean, you're crazy.
Yeah, 52 Telly, remember?
With a 52 Telly, this is like you can't even. And so you start fixating on stuff, and he's one of those guys that grew up with nothing. And so, I went to his apartment one time. He just had all these like Hardy Boys mysteries, first edition, neatly. He's an incredible guy. And he told this story about how. He said, "Yeah, I'm a little tired tonight. I was up at 4 a.m. I went to the swap meet in Mill Valley, and there was a guy there. It was dark, and this guy was unloading his truck, and he had a box of records, and and I was going through the records, and I found a sealed copy of this Lenny Bruce record. It's worth like $600. I picked it up and I held it in my hands, and I was looking at it. I turned it over and I turned to the guy and I said, "How much are the records?" And the guy says, "All the records in the box are $1." He said, and I said, "Would you take 50 cents?"
Wow.
And it just gives you a little insight into how crazy Rick Reynolds is.
That's how crazy.
Great comedian.
I had that guitar, and I traded and sold and hustled everything. It was like a constant upgrade until I got to it. It was like, what's the best guitar? And when I got it at the time, it was $8,000, and then they became $40,000, and now they're like $80,000 and $100,000. Isn't that crazy? I think like if I just held on to that, but the move to LA, everything's gone,
Well, yeah, and also if you to have a guitar like that.
Yeah, it's too nerve-wracking.
I mean, you're going to have some kind of handcuff around your wrist.
Totally.
I mean, part of the reason why I always played that Japanese Telecaster that cost $150 that I played on every Green on Red record, I played it on every one of my records. They bought it for me. Yeah. Well, actually, Enigma Records, when Green on Red signed to Enigma, we said, well, we need some equipment, and they said, well, we're not going to give you guys any money.
Yeah. yeah.
But you can go to the store out on Whittier Boulevard, and you can get anything you need there. So I remember I took the bus all the way out to like East LA and all the way out to the store in Whittier, and I wanted a Stratocaster. When I got there, they just had this one Japanese Telecaster.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I guess I'll take that guitar.
Wow.
No case,
Yeah, no case.
And so I still play that guitar, but one of the things I like about it is that, we do a sound check. I just lean it against the amp and go get something to eat.
Yeah, you're so right.
Like, what are you going to do with the 52 Telecaster?
Yeah.
Well, hire a security guard?
Yeah. The only reason I got it was just like that was the crown jewel, and I was like, I want to own the best,
Yeah.
And man, it was fucking smoking, man.
I remember playing that guitar of yours.
It was smoking.
I remember playing it in your apartment and plugging it into like a AC30 or something. You crank it. I say, man, people can hear this like 5 miles away.
Yeah.
Like, isn't it great?
It sounded great.
Listen to that tone.
Yeah, it was that Fawn AC30 and that fucking 52. It was straight Tom Petty, and it was just incredible. And it was like a song machine. Songs just came out of that thing,
Yeah, those you got to hold on to those.
I know, but I wanted to
maybe you just bled it dry. It just bled out.
Yeah. All right, all done. I wanted to do comedy, and everything I owned, I sold.
Is that right?
Everything I owned, I sold.
And that just kind of made you commit.
Well, I looked at it as I had done one movie, and I sold all my equipment, and I go, this will give me years to work 7 days a week and every day, all night, to get good at comedy. And I just put it in the bank, and then I would just take $20 out a day. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And eventually,
really?
Yeah, so I could just live and do comedy because I knew at 44 years old, I didn't have 20 years to get good. I'm not saying I'm good now.
No, I got it. No, I understand. Well, I imagine you are because you have the humility to know that you're going to get better.
Yeah, that's all I want to do is get better.
I mean? Yeah.
That's all I want to do. Like last night, I did an hour and 10 minutes, and my buddies are like, that was great. And to me, it was like, yeah, it was okay. But
I envy you because I think it's just a great art form. And it's got to be, and when it's not working, it's just got to be like someone just fucking just took a knife and just bleeding you out. And it's got to be so dispiriting. And then when it's working, it's going to be that buzz that you're going to keep chasing.
Way bigger than cocaine, man. It's way bigger than any drug. It's like mining for gold. You're at a coffee shop, you come up with an idea, you sketch down a couple fucking notes, and then you go and do it, and all of a sudden you don't know what's going to happen, and you drop a couple lines, and giant laughter comes out. You go, wow, this is fucking working. It's exacta panning for gold. You go, okay, I got to keep adding on to this.
Plus, you're uncomfortable. You're on your knees when you're panning for gold, and it's cold. And
Yeah.
You could be inside, warm, watching TV.
Yeah, there's bears. There's bears around.
There's always bears.
Yeah.
You can't see them, but you know they're there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I completely appreciate that, what you're doing, and
Well, you got to come see it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm
Are
going
you
to do it over the next couple nights. I want to look at that door between the punchline and what used to be the Waldorf.
Let's do that.
where I saw Dizzy Gillespie
Let's
and
do it.
the Stray Cats.
You should come tomorrow night. It'll be better because
It's tomorrow, Saturday?
yeah, it's like 7:30 and like 9:30.
Okay, yeah, the 2 sets. I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
let me know and I'll put you on the
Yeah,
list.
no, put me on.
Bring you later. Yeah. I'm glad we talked, dude. I feel like we haven't talked in years. I felt like we had a weird falling out or something. I just never talked to you.
I don't think so.
Well, I just never talked to you
Yeah.
again. I was like, wow, it was weird, you know? That's weird when you don't see guys
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, it's so long that you're like, fuck, man, I want to have Chuck on the show, but is it going to be weird? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't feel that way. Well, I mean, the thing is I tune into your show because I'm a fan of Aaron Draplin. He's done a
Right.
couple of my records.
Yeah.
And, you know, wrestling that guy to the ground
Yeah.
is always a challenge. And
Yeah.
and so I was scrolling through, I guess Aaron's Twitter feed or something,
Yeah.
and it said something about you. I said, oh, this is gonna be good.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
clear out the Sunday morning. So he didn't roll over you too bad.
No.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, he's he's volcanic.
Yeah, I don't think I got 2 words in.
No, he's volcanic. Yeah, just
He sat on the couch, and it was like I hit play, and he
Yeah.
whoop, and then he was out of there.
yeah. Well, he's
Great
wonderful.
guy.
I mean, he's wonderful because he, working on those records with him.
Yeah. Which ones?
A record called "Let Freedom Ring," which was a record that I recorded in Mexico City
Oh, I saw that.
during the swine flu scare,
Wow.
which is
I was
we
reading that
had
you
to
were doing
suffer
the
through.
politics songs.
They were at the time they were what I referred to as political songs for non-political people.
Right. Born in the USA.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yep.
I guess. Well, disenfranchised. It was those songs were all written in the summer of 2008.
Yeah.
Right over here on Howard Street. I had the window open. There was a heat wave, and everything just kind of blew in there. And that was the summer that I don't know if you remember. The summer of 2008 was the summer that the bottom fell out of the wet sack of the economy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
And, people that looked like they were going to retire in a couple years, well, you're going
Oh.
to put that off for another 10 years.
Wow.
At best, And so I wrote those songs, and I really wanted it to be a record where there wasn't like a lot of production. I just really wanted the words to be up front,
Yeah.
It was 2 guitar, bass, drum, that's it.
Yep.
And so a friend of mine, Jason Carmer, maybe you remember
Yeah,
Jason?
I know Jason.
He
He
emailed
worked on my record.
Yeah, he emailed me and said, I'm down in Mexico City.
Wow.
It's like the 60s down here.
What?
You got to come down here. It's like the fucking 60s. I'm working down here. I'm working with Mexican bands. I said, I'm coming down there. We're going to make a record.
That's so him.
I flew to Mexico City.
Yeah.
And we spent about 3 days looking for a studio. We found it. We had a driver for about $10 a day. We had a driver. A lot of money to him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we looked at one studio after another, and they were either great rooms, but the equipment had been gutted, or they were like, okay, they had some equipment, but it wasn't a good room. And at about the end of the 3rd day, we went to this cafe. We met this guy. He was about 3 hours late. I found out also that in Mexico City, if you're on time, it's rude.
Wow.
Everybody's just 2 hours late.
Wow. That's hilarious.
And if they're 3 hours late, you go, oh, we could have been here for like 3 hours. Yeah, I know, but I'm here now.
Yeah, yeah. Relax, buddy.
Yeah, like what?
I didn't want to be rude and show up on time.
Yeah, exactly. You go, well,
I would lose my mind.
I'd lose my mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I'm just such an uptight white guy.
Yeah, me too.
And so at the end of the 3rd day, we pull up to this place. All places in Mexico Mexico City are like walled in compounds,
Yeah, oh yeah.
So we
yeah.
go into this kind of walled in compound. We go down this narrow hall, and we go into this room, and I go into this control room, Dean.
Yeah.
And there's Pultec equalizers,
Whoa.
which you might
Yeah.
see in a
Oh, yeah.
studio. They might have one. They might have
Yeah.
a pair.
Yeah. Yeah.
A good studio.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they're just like up to the ceiling.
Wow.
And Mexico.
Yeah.
When things break,
Yeah.
they fix them.
Yep.
So if they, like for you'd still have that 52
Yeah.
Telecaster.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know what I
right.
mean? When things break, they fix them. And I'm like, I was looking at the studio, and then I looked at the room. It was like the walls had like bamboo, and I was like, we got to cut this record here. This
Yeah.
this is a state of the art studio. We're looking at a studio here that's completely state of the art at one time.
Yeah.
I think probably around the time of the Eisenhower administration.
Whoa. Just
And
fucking
so,
time capsule, huh?
Yeah, time capsule. So I came back to the States. I talked Greg Leese into producing, and I told him about this idea of going down there. And I remember I said, Greg, these records they're all about the current state of, the nation, and Mexico City's it's like 3,000 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
I said, I stood on the roof of the hotel. I had some binoculars. I could see your house. and Greg, and I remember it was like a silence, and Greg goes, that could work.
Yeah.
And so, we flew down there with a 4-piece band.
Yeah.
And we went into the studio and started hacking our way through it. And of course, half the equipment didn't work, and it was a struggle. But people are so generous, like, oh, my cousin's got a twin reverb. He lives, like 3 days later.
Yeah.
Five guys show up with a twin reverb.
Yeah.
But within 2 or 3 days of arriving, we started hearing about this H1N1 virus, also known as the swine flu.
Wow, yeah.
And they shut Mexico City down.
Whoa.
All public events shut down. Restaurants closed.
Whoa.
There were tanks going down this boulevard throwing boxes of those blue masks.
No shit?
Yeah.
Wow.
I had met this drummer here at like a blues jam, Boom Carter.
Yeah.
Living in San Leandro, played on the song "Born to Run."
What?
But yeah,
He played on Born to
that
Run?
song. Right?
Where was
yeah.
Max?
He wasn't in the band yet. He left the band after that.
Whoa.
Along with David Sanchez, the original keyboard player.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, so he settled here. He's played with a lot of people over the years. I met him through a friend of a friend, like some jam session, and I said, Boom Carter's his name. Great guy. And so Boom played on some of the demos for this record. And so I brought Boom with me. I mean,
wow.
And there was talk literally while we were making this record. There was talk on the news about quarantines.
Wow.
And these guys, I got family, man. I gotta get. And I was in like the hotel, and I was just like, I was just looking at the ceiling on, what have I done?
Whoa.
Just my prophet, your ego. Just had to be different.
Yeah.
You had to
Mexico City.
It'll be crazy. It'll be great. And we had a film crew down there with us.
And you guys are all locked in.
Yeah, I mean, we would go out at night, and knock on the doors of restaurants, and people would open the door. Come on in.
Yeah.
And then close it behind us.
Wow.
So we saw so much beautiful stuff. I mean, Mexico City is such a beautiful place. And, I had been down there before, like in the mid-'90s, with my manager. And it's kind of a weird story, but it was a weird place.
Yeah.
But you see, after the internet, the kids in Mexico City, they're no longer just stuck watching MTV and like
they learn.
They're not just watching like Rage Against the Machine and Eminem or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like listening to the Smiths.
Yeah.
Or they're listening to like
Morrissey.
Or obscure rockabilly.
Totally.
So they're all often or death metal or Norwegian death metal. They can tap into any weird subsect of culture that they want to. And we were walking through Condesa, the area down the boulevard, and I would see these kids coming up the street. It looked like the Kings of Leon.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I ended up going down there a couple years later and playing with a band called the Twin Tones and doing a tour of Mexico.
Wow.
They're like a surf, rock, spaghetti western kind of interesting band. And they backed me, and we did, we played at this place in Mexico City that was like the CBGBs of Mexico. I mean, we didn't even go on until like 5 a.m.
No shit?
Yeah. Power goes out. Nobody cares,
Yeah. Power down for a while?
Yeah. I mean, when we were in the studio recording, the power kept going out.
Yeah.
You had these like rolling brownouts.
Yep.
And we were inevitably in the middle of some kind of intense take. We were trying to record live and not overdub, and then the power would go out. And I got to the point where I was like, I was just so uptight. I ended up going into the manager's office, and he was just kind of in a chair, his eyes half closed. I said, "Hey, senor, I don't know if you realize what's going on in there, but." We're trying to make a record, okay? And the power keeps going out. And he looks at me, and the power comes back on.
Wow.
And he said, "Well,
it's on now.
He's back on now."
I know, right? It's so laid back.
Even to this day, in my dark side, the hard drive's back there spinning, trying to find a comeback. Yeah, well,
Yeah, it's like, okay.
I still don't have a comeback.
That's totally it, right? It's so laid
so I
back.
learned, you know. Those people they're my teachers, and I still go down there whenever I can.
No
It's
shit,
a
huh?
wonderful place, yeah.
That's so cool,
I mean,
man.
It's, you know, I tell people, I mean, it's a fairly well kept secret, but Dean, it's 3 hours from here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you get on a plane, you go 3 hours. It's not like you're in another country. It's like you're on the other side of the moon.
I know, man. I take a fucking 1 hour flight to Todos Santos where Peter Buck does his music.
Yeah,
festival.
I went to the Peter Buck Fest for 5 years.
That's my fucking heaven there.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no one around. There's 4 miles of beach. It's like Planet of the Apes. There's not one person around. You know, like when
Yeah.
he finds the fucking Statue
Oh
of
yeah,
Liberty.
no, I know it well.
Yeah, that's my fucking,
bastards.
that's my scene, man, down there. I'm just down there in Todos Santos, and I'm like, this is it. All the fucking sounds go away in my head, and I just eat some amazing.
Oh, the fish in the shacks there,
Ah.
the fish tacos and
yeah,
stuff are incredible.
it's
yeah.
unbelievable, man. That whole area, I worship.
And sadly, you know, the developers are pretty savvy, and they're getting. And Peter's, you know, Buck has had a problem with that, and
Yeah.
he's been pretty vocal about it.
Yeah,
God
yeah.
bless him. You know.
Yeah, I guess they boycotted him
But
for a
you
while.
you go into Todos Santos, and they've got this old Pueblo zoning, and there's no chains.
Nope, no chains.
You know, there's no chain
Yeah.
restaurants, and it's like there just has to be one small crack in the armor, and you know, Subway's going to get in
That's
there.
what happened,
You know,
like-
they're going to get in there. They're going to say like, "Oh, we'll just open a Subway in the gas station. It's not going
Yeah.
to hurt anybody."
Yeah.
and it'll be cheap, and it'll be crappy, and it's a corporate takeover, and suddenly, you know,
Yeah.
the community will have been sold.
That's what happened to Cabo. They had a Dairy Queen. I was down there in 90 or 92. They had a Dairy Queen. That's it. The whole thing was nothing. And then all of a sudden, this Planet Hollywood came in. You know, Stallone and these guys.
Yeah,
We want to come
got
down
it.
here. And then all of a sudden, it was like, you know, this thing popped up. And then Costco. And then, and next thing you know, it's all. Now I just feel like I'm in San Diego. You know what I mean? It's like, but Todos Santos still has just the fucking no man's land, and you know, that's why I go there. I don't need fucking see the shit I got right here. You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what's beautiful about it, and you know, they've got their own issues as a community, and they want to, you know, be able to build schools, and it's complicated, you know. But
It's crazy.
I mean,
You travel.
they can learn. They can learn from us, you know. I mean,
Yep.
I mean, these box stores and these corporate, you know, the Starbucks of the world, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They'll wait it out.
Greed.
They'll wait it out.
Totally.
You know?
Totally. I think it's all the bad is from greed. These high rents, these chains, these fucking, you know, whatever they can make money on, it just mow the people over, and who cares?
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco was a little bit of a sleepy town in the sense that it wasn't a great industry town.
Right.
And the first tech wave was kind of unique because it was really centered down south in Cupertino.
That's
know?
right.
And you've got the best and brightest coming to work for these companies. You got these kids that went to MIT and they can program, you know, in their sleep, zeros and ones, and
Yeah.
they're completely talented. Well, they were. The problem is then in 1997 they were content to be in Cupertino. And like, you know, when it comes time for lunch, you want to go to the Olive Garden?
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
that's
but,
it.
But the second wave,
Yeah,
you know,
they were like, we got all
they
this
want the
money.
good. They want the good stuff,
Yeah,
you know, and they
they
want
do.
the food trucks, and they want the music, and they want all this culture.
$20 coffee.
They want all this culture that, you know, that we invented.
Yeah, you're right.
And yeah, and
The
then
separate neighborhoods of the cultures.
yeah, I mean, look what happened to poor Alex Nieto in Bernal Heights. You know,
Yeah.
we got a guy who grew up there. He's a 27-year-old, you know, Hispanic security guard. He's going to work at a club, and he's eating a burrito in the park, and somebody's dog's hassling him, and one thing leads to another. He's got a taser for his job.
Yeah.
There's a disagreement between him and a guy who's new to the city. He doesn't understand what's happening. He goes back down. He texts somebody. Oh, there's a guy there's a guy in a gang up there, and he's got a gun.
Oh, God.
know?
Yeah.
Next thing you got 4 cops unloading 56 shots into him.
That's
you know?
insane, right?
Yeah,
It's just crazy, man.
that's gentrification.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Yeah. That was the greatest thing about this city when I was growing up here. the neighborhoods all had these flavors. Like, we're going up to North Beach. We're going to go have some Italian food. No chains allowed in the city. Remember back then?
Yeah.
You had McDonald's on Van Ness
maybe,
and
yeah.
Jack in the Box on Lombard. The only two in the 17 Mile. That was it. And I never even really knew about the chains that much because I just ate at the corner store deli, had the best sandwich. I would go over to fucking here on Polk to eat that Chinese food. What's that place? General Chow, that guy, man. I would get the Chinese food there. I would go to fucking, Sparky's to have like the rocket
I remember
shake.
Sparky's on Church Street.
Yeah.
It was one of the only 24-hour places.
That was it.
It's never been a great late night town.
Nope, no. But it was you would go to all these different neighborhoods and that was your food. Like, oh, you gotta go to fucking, down to the marina to get crap. They just crack it open right there for you or whatever, It's and that's what I love about it, Still right now, the Mexican food and everything's still around.
Well, that part of town, Bernal Heights and the Mission, the Outer Mission, it's, that's the part of town that's closest to Cupertino.
Yeah.
Whereas in the old days, the money was over in the marina.
You're so right.
And maybe the money was centered around here in the financial district. You know what I mean? And so you had the rich kids out there in the marina and the financial district. But that's all shifted. And now Mark Zuckerberg's got a place in the Mission. And,
that's wild, right? The Mission.
I mean, the reality is that we've just been dragged into the same money trap.
Yeah.
As New York or London, and it's become a place where only the rich need apply.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I always to see what happened to these kids in Oakland. It was misguided and it was tragic.
It's such a bummer.
People trying to carve out alternative living spaces.
Yep.
It's heartbreaking.
My dream is always a live loft, live work loft. It's always has been like one of those ones like that. We're always down by the new ballpark, Pac Bell.
Yeah.
Like you just have this killer one where you could just ride your motorcycle into the into the big freight elevator.
I can see you doing that.
Yeah, and then it just opens up on the third floor, and you ride the bike in, and then there's your dog, and you got like a punching bag in the corner, and some gear you can set up and jam, and then over here you could paint and whatever. It was just a.
Well, there's still places like that, I mean, Asbury Park, New Jersey is going to make a comeback, and some people say Louisville's, there are always places. I mean, I don't know if you remember Ian Brennan, but he's gone out into Africa and recorded people now. He was a character around town. I still see him from time to time, but he's one of those guys who's an expert on emerging.
The next hot spot.
Emerging slacker, bohemian.
Like Detroit. A lot of people are going to Detroit, like rich hipsters that got money, and they just go and buy a whole building and turn it. I watched a thing Johnny Knoxville did on YouTube. They're doing like urban farming. A guy buys a warehouse, 4 floors. One's a fucking nightclub. The next floor is a recording studio. The other one's like ping pong fucking, play, whatever. But it is the dream.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have that frontier spirit.
Yeah, you do.
You got to be willing to cross over, and you might hit bad weather and have to eat each other. But, you got to have that frontier spirit.
The revenant.
And now I wonder, at my age, I don't know.
I know.
Have I gotten soft?
You do get soft.
But I did. I lived in a warehouse on Folsom and, hung the drywall myself with Dale Duncan's help. And let me tell you, hanging drywall is...
Yeah, it's an art.
It's not child's play.
No.
And getting the drywall up the 3 flights of stairs...
The worst.
Was
especially if it's
that took some doing.
If it's the waterproof drywall, it weighs twice as much. That's the worst.
So we did that stuff, and we built a loft up there, and I mean, I would just I remember I had an electric blanket. I would just get under that thing, and I had my turntable right next to my bed.
Yeah, I had the electric.
Listen to records over and over.
Warehouse had no heat. I had the warehouse too. Slept in it, made a loft, built it up, then slept it higher up. It was colder.
I had a copy of Waylon Jennings' "Dreaming My Dreams," and I used to listen to that record over and over and over. In fact, a few years ago, I remade it.
Yeah.
like from memory.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're not even A-B'ing.
Well,
Just-
we got locked in the studio, and we decided, I was bragging about how I knew that record so well that I could do it from memory.
Yeah.
And we ended up pulling some of the lyrics down off the internet and stuff, but we ended up remaking the record.
Wow.
Start to finish, like almost on a dare.
Wow.
You can buy it. It's out there.
I love you, man.
Yeah. All right, I love you too.
Thanks for doing the show, dude.
Oh, it's just been
So fucking
it's been a
cool.
trip. I mean, I know we have a lot in common, and so much of it overlaps, you know.
Oh,
so
man.
if we don't talk to each other for 15 years, it doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like that Peter Buck thing. We'll just, you know,
It's
pick
like,
up where
hey,
we
man,
left off. Yeah,
Great MC5
yeah
cover.
exactly. Yeah.
All right, come to the show tomorrow.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
There he is, Chuck Prophet, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe and rate this, rate and review the podcast. That's how we get up there in the top 100. And check out all of Chuck's music on iTunes. And the records I recommend are all of them. Check them out, all of them. And thank you for tuning in. See ya.
Well, the sun's burning down on the pavement. Money in the bank, I ain't gonna save it. Jenna coming by, hope she makes it. Jenna coming by, and I sure hope she makes it. It's a summertime thing. Summertime thing. There's a party next door that sounds like it's cooking. I poked my head over the wall, took a look in. Was a 5-piece band, they was really rocking. Oh, looked like some kind of family reunion. Hey, it's a summertime thing. Summertime thing. Summertime thing. Summertime thing. Well, that summer heat's got me feeling lazy. Air is warm and the sky's hazy. People getting down, getting crazy. Oh, people getting down, getting stupid, getting crazy. Hey, it's a summertime thing. Summertime thing. It's a summertime thing. Summertime thing. Ask your dad for the keys of the Honda. And can your sister come along? How could she not wanna? I put the Beach Boys on, wanna hear him and Rounder. Oh, put the Beach Boys on, wanna hear him and Rounder. Hey, on the outside, we'll drive to the downtown, take off our clothes and jump into the river. Take off your clothes, jump into the river. Hey, it's a summertime thing. Summertime